Tragedy here today, as the city had this long streak that the chief has talked about recently of no homicides, and the fact that violence in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, has been on the decrease in record numbers. 67% decrease in homicides, and then now we have the news that overnight we knew that 3 people had been shot and killed, and now today we're hearing that another person also has been killed. So let's just recap a little bit, because there are several different crime scenes here. If you're just joining us, overnight there was an incident. Let me just get to my notes here because I want to make sure I get this right. Okay, so overnight there was a shooting near 25th Street and Bloomington Avenue. It was just before midnight. Amber, I don't know if you still have that map that
I do.
You can pop
you
up. That was super helpful to be able to show the proximity here, especially. So as we're taking a look there, the point at the top, the red point, that is where we were just now, I believe. And if you go down just a little bit, is it the end point there?
So the
right
spot in the middle here, that is where that shooting happened last night.
The first shooting here, just before midnight near 25th Street and Bloomington Avenue, that's in the Phillips neighborhood. There were 5 victims when police showed up, 3 people who died at the scene, 2 men and 1 woman. And then it sounds like 2 others were brought to the hospital and in critical condition, and still also in critical condition at this time. And then a second shooting about 5 blocks away, not sure how much later it was, but down there was a second shooting. And we don't know a whole lot about that shooting, other than to say that a victim was dropped off at the hospital. And police are, as the chief said, just barely 14 hours into this investigation. And even overnight, Amber did not say...
did not connect them,
not
firmly. He did say it is suspicious that they happened in such close proximity to each other and within such a short time frame, but he did not actually say concretely that MPD is tying those 2 scenes together.
And you see at the bottom of your screen, he did mention that they do believe at this point that these are targeted shootings, and he even went so far last night as to say they believe that this is gang related. In fact, you may have heard the mayor off the top talk about the fact that this looks like this is retaliation today from what happened last night. So they kind of started the press conference in kind of reverse order. We didn't really know what had happened. We kind of got reaction first, but then the chief filled us in a little bit. So the scene today where they are at the top right on your screen there, where the pinpoint is, that is the area of, is it
Franklin and Cedar?
Okay, Franklin and Cedar. And you saw an apartment building there and our chopper that was up. So apparently,
I do have that still. Would you like it?
Sure. Yeah.
We'll see if it hangs on for us.
See if it. I know it can be a little finicky. So this is the crime scene, and we're not sure exactly where it happened, but police were called at about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Some 911 calls came in, and they responded and found a man in his 30s. Who was struggling there, trying to hold on to his life, and he ended up dying at the scene despite life-saving efforts. And then even more disturbing than that is there could have been the potential for some more tragic deaths here. There were no other deaths at the scene. However, the police chief saying that 1 round from the shooting that happened there actually sprayed and went through an SUV nearby, and passed through the legs of 2 small children in car seats, an infant and a toddler, but passed through where their legs were. So they were not, it sounds like they were not struck, and they are fine, but horrifying.
Narrowly,
horrifying potential for some collateral fatalities there that did not happen. But obviously the mayor very, very upset, and the police chief as well, just saying, the people who live here deserve better. And as far as whether they're connected or not, the chief was asked that several times. So we have these 3 different shootings. He kind of said, well, I can't say whether they're connected or not. We want to keep the investigation open, keep our minds open to let the evidence lead us to answers here. But he said we are 3 blocks away from what happened last night. And so he said, you can connect your own dots there. But all of these victims, also kind of another layer to this, he said, are from the Native American community. And so he has been in conversations with American Indian community leaders. This morning he met with some of them. He was supposed to be meeting with them here this afternoon, and then this happened. and it sounded like he was on his way to meet with them again. But he had said that there were, it sounded like the people he talked to in the Native American community and some of the residents living in this area have said, we've been telling you guys that something's going on here. The community has been telling them something is going on. So they're following what they're calling promising leads at this point. Lots of evidence, he said. They've got the FBI on it, the U.S. Marshals, the U.S. Attorney's Office. So they have throwing all the resources possible at these investigations, and just given kind of the confidence with which he was speaking, a lot of times they come up to the podium and they really are kind of hat in hand saying, hey, we really need a lot of help on this. We need people to speak up, to tell us, and of course they still do, but it sounds like they already have this cache of a lot of evidence and people who are willing to talk and in that community and give them some leads as well. The victims from last night, we learned a 20-year-old woman, a 17-year-old young man, and a 27-year-old man were the three who died at the scene of that first shooting. There was also a 28-year-old man and a 20-year-old woman who were injured in there, and I'm not sure if those are the two who are in grave condition. We can kind of presume that at the hospital, so we'll see if this ends up becoming even more tragic than it already is. Okay, just looking through some of my notes here, just want to make sure I'm covering everything. I think.
Amy, I want to point out here, if people just caught this on the chopper, this building, one of the awnings there does say Red Lake Nation Embassy. Just to really hone in on this, being a part of the Native American community here in Minneapolis, this is really their home here in the city. Yeah. There's a large population of Native Americans living in this part of Minneapolis. Little Earth is what most people know it as.
There's that corridor in Minneapolis, with resources and businesses and housing for our Native American community. So as soon as Mayor Fry came out and started speaking in those terms, like I said, we kind of got a lot of information before we understood exactly what had happened, but you knew that it was, how did he put it? He said that the Native community is feeling this acutely. And you could just kind of hear it in his voice that there's a lot of people in that area, and especially living in that building, the chief said, who are terrified right now because this is still, there are still people out there who fired weapons, and I think this is just it's going to be a very tense time for folks until everybody is held accountable here. So if you're just joining us, we've been kind of following these stories here overnight into today. Amber, do we want to kind of stick with this for a little bit? Do we want to take a break?
I think we'll sign off here, Amy. Okay. We're not really expecting much of anything else from MPD. The afternoon guys are standing by ready to take over. So we'll have to do a little bit of, musical chair shuffling back here. I do want to point out, you may have heard one of the reporters on scene mention another possible shooting scene in Minneapolis. 3313 Harriet Ave is the location that I have. That's located in the South Uptown neighborhood approximately, so further away from where the rest of this is, but not terribly far. It is still in that area south of downtown. So kind of all happening sandwiched between Franklin Ave and let's see, this is showing me right off 34th Street here, but the chief saying that he can't confirm anything about what's happening at that scene right now. So that's still... Yeah. So Chopper is heading over there right now, potential shooting scene, 3313 Harriet Avenue, but the chief asked about it just as we were closing out the press conference, and he said, I know about it, I heard it come over the radio, but I have nothing to confirm at this point. So it's just sort of a citizen report at this point, but we'll bring you up to speed if that ends up being something as well. So, okay, well, we'll have, the very latest, obviously, working on the web content right now. You can find stuff on our website, box9.com, and then also coming up at 5 and 6. If there's anything else to sort of, break into or bring you any other news conferences or anything, we will absolutely do that. Rob Olson there on the scene with a number of photojournalists. We have several crews on this today, so quite the rash of devastating violence in this community over the last 13 hours, Amy, after a month of basically nothing. Yeah, that is so really just a shock to the system here in Minneapolis.